welcome. This is BloombergQuint, and we are taking stock of earnings from Persistent Systems. It's been a steady quarter, certainly a strong one, and ahead of consensus expectations when it comes to revenue growth. To take us through the quarter and what we can expect going forward, I'm in conversation with the CEO of the company, Chris O'Connor. Chris, good morning, and thanks so much for taking the time out. Well, let's start with your assessment of how you've seen the performance for this particular quarter. What we've seen is revenues, particularly in this case, stand out ahead of expectations. And well, I'm reading a few broken notes where there is a suggestion that this is largely on account of your IP business. Can you tell us a little more about well, what's led to this growth as far as your top line goes?
Yeah, certainly, and thank you for having me. Overall, a solid quarter. We took the first quarter of the year, and it was a learning quarter, being a new team. And we had to figure out ourselves, and we had to figure out a little bit on the company, and came up with how we wanted to put the structure in place and how we wanted to execute, which we did. And in 2Q, we got to practice and try some of those levers across the board. And to our pleasure, we had good success in most of the levers that we pulled. To be able to make the revenue move. It included a whole set of actions that have implications across the numbers broadly. Number one, we focused on our customers, we focused on deals, we focused on deal expansion, and the numbers are all reflective from our largest customers all the way down to our tail of deal expansion and of revenue growth. Number two, we saw good, healthy expansion in our IP-led revenues. In a very even and balanced way. Our software business had several deals that we brought in. Our largest client in our alliance business continued to grow with us, and that led to IP-led deals. And probably third and most important, which we wanted to make move in a commensurate fashion, was our own IP and see it grow across the board as well. And we accomplished that in a very even IP-led oriented set of growth. But it wasn't just about IP-led. If you look at our services business, it grew at a nice steady number as well. About half of the IP-led, but it grew at a nice level as well. And so for us, an exciting quarter. If you recall, last quarter we started to show you industry verticals, and those are a focus area for us. With banking doing well as healthcare continue to expand also. So we continue to tune and apply ourselves now as we look forward.
Right, Chris, what I'm also observing is a sharp uptick in your employee benefit costs. My question really is this as a result of you onboarding more employees, and can that be taken as a fact that you guys are building on more capacities for the pipeline in terms of deals that you have? Can you elaborate a little more on this aspect?
I think in short to your question, an absolute yes is part of the answer. We've implemented a bookings-oriented methodology that gives us headlights, and in that it gives us impetus to be able to plan for growth, as well as to bring people on board and look forward. And that's a strength I think that we'll enjoy as we look forward. Second, we also have some seasonality in terms of employee expenses, and third, we're in a transition as well. As I mentioned, we aligned structure, and when you align structure, you also remove structure, but they don't happen at exactly the same rates. And you'll see that clean up as you look forward as well. So it's really those three factors, a focus on where we think growth is going to be, which is a great statement, some seasonality, and then some structural alignment that we think will clean up and reduce in terms of its noticeability as we grow revenue.
Right, Chris, you know, it's keeping in mind that we're expected to see revenue growth for Persistent Systems on a year-on-year basis. You know, last quarter, you and I had this conversation about the lumpiness of revenues coming in. My question then is, going forward, because it's been a sequentially strong quarter in terms of revenue, well, could there be that lumpiness aspect come in play out in the next couple of quarters?
So we've put a focus on the internal components that drive lumpiness, if I can use that word. And I think what you'll see is that at a company level, Our ambition and our drive is to provide several points of growth quarter on quarter and internally manage where we see lumpiness. So in terms of our largest client, we've put an extreme focus on how we sell their products as well as have them sell their products, and we deal with their lumpiness. And I think as you look forward, you'll see that considerably smoother. It's a little smoother this quarter. I think it'll be smoother in future quarters, and it's about application of where you want your customers to be that we're very focused on, and I'm not anticipating an extreme lumpiness in terms of how our growth looks. I'm anticipating a consistent upward tick.
Okay, and a final question then, Chris, is to do with your operating margins. I know that you had a large expense coming in as far as your employees is concerned, but if you leave that component aside, what are the other factors that are playing as far as operating margins go, and what can you tell us about the outlook in terms of your margins?
Obviously, we talked a little bit about structure, and that'll settle down some more, and that'll assist our margins. Second, which is obviously very important, is just growth. Will obviously be a part of our margins going forward, and will help bring it in line, and we anticipate historical margins to be where we'll be heading back to. And then last, we did some things in quarter that are one-time oriented, or that were oriented towards helping us make the alignment, and you could classify it as structure, which is we rebranded Persistent. We worked on who we are, we worked on our ability to tell stories. At any given point in time, we have hundreds of projects going with some of the best brand names you could imagine in North America, and we got to get the story out. And so we hired a professional. They came in and did some extreme rapid work with us, and that's a real expense that you incur that goes away. But the drive that they put in place and the rebranding work is not just about a pretty logo. It's about getting out to our clients and telling a story on who we are. And so that will help us in the future, but it's also an expense that is in quarter.
Fair enough, Chris. We leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the best for the future.
Thank you.